This is A's Cast Live, your comprehensive look at the Athletics.
Leaping the ball, it's gone. Towering drive into center field by Rooker.
And 29 other MLB clubs.
A judgy at blast. All right. Here comes the judge.
Swung on, hit high, hit deep to right, away back into the second deck.
Bobby Witt Jr. becomes the first shortstop in Major League history to have two 30-30 seasons.
Shohei Ohtani starts the 50-50 club.
Join us as we take you inside the baseball universe, from humidors to walk-off dingers to Hall of Fame talk. We have you covered. Spend your afternoon with us, only on A's Cast Live. Here's Chris Townsend.
We've got a busy show for you today here on A's Cast Live, an early edition. It's almost like we're doing the winter meetings. We'll be in Dallas coming up. What is that, Cody, on the
9th of December?
9th?
So we got like 4 weeks, something like that. I don't know the math. It's like less than a month.
So normally we come on at 1 o'clock, but when Brent Rooker says that he wants to go early, we're going to go early. Why? Because he just won the Silver Slugger Award, the first A to do it since 2002. And we check in with Rook just outside of Memphis. How are you?
Good, man. I'm doing well. Happy to be here. Happy to talk to you guys again. It's been a little bit, obviously, since we talked at the end of the year, but I'm excited to be here as always.
Yeah, so what has it been like this offseason for you, kind of like to decompress, look at a season that was obviously super special for you to win this award, the Silver Slugger Award, as the designated hitter? Now that you've had time to step away from it and you reflect, what's it been like?
Yeah, it's been cool. Obviously, after the season ends, take 2 or 3 weeks, don't really do anything, just kind of relax, like you said, decompress. And then now kind of getting into the phase of the offseason where you start to look back a little bit and I've satisfaction of things I was able to accomplish. And now it's time for me to kind of turn the page, look back at the year, look at what I did well, look at what I think I can still improve on, and then kind of put together a plan for this offseason and even spring training that I think is going to take me to the next level and allow me to continue to improve.
And I think a lot of people don't realize, with you guys in that clubhouse, the great vibe that was going on, as really it takes a long time to turn that boat, but it seems like that boat's going in the right direction and starting to win, and watching the young players, to watch them grow. Just talk about when you were leaving, what kind of vibe there was inside that clubhouse with this team heading into this next season.
Yeah, it's special. I think, even after that last game in Seattle, guys are already kind of itching to get to spring training and get back with this group that we have and continue the momentum that we built the last three or so months of the year. I think we've got a bunch of guys who are bought into what we're doing, a bunch of guys who are bought into each other, bought into themselves as individually as players. There's a lot of confidence both in one another as teammates and then in ourselves as well as individual players. So I think we all like what we have going. We could all kind of sense the things starting to change and starting to turn towards the end of the year, and even kind of starting midway through the year. And we're just looking forward to getting back at it and keeping that momentum going.
Now, obviously, the Silver Slugger, we're talking a lot about your numbers. But when I think about what you have become for this organization, when the young players come on this show and they talk about you, and we've gone over your journey a lot about how you got here and what's happened since you've become an Athletic, but just talk about what it means to you, how the young players now look up to you, how you've become one of the leaders, if not from a position player standpoint, if not the leader in the clubhouse. What does that mean to you as a player?
It's special, man. It's something I enjoy because I really like watching the young guys kind of come into their own and figure out how good they are and make improvements, both on the field and in their preparation as well, and their mental game as well, the way they think through things, the way that they think about themselves, the way they're able to keep their confidence up, and seeing those things kind of develop and then turn into the players that they're turning into is really cool. And for me to kind of be even a small part of that by just kind of, I think a lot of the value that I have is the fact that I've played a bunch of different roles on teams. I've kind of done it all, right? I've been kind of the highly thought of prospect who's getting his first shot. And then I've kind of been the guy fighting for a roster spot. And then I've been the guy who's bounced back and forth between AAA and the big leagues, trying to kind of make the AAA success translate into the major leagues. And then I've been the everyday guy who hits third and fourth, middle of the order every day. So I've kind of played every role you can possibly play on a team. And that allows me to kind of meet guys where they're at in terms of the points in their career and kind of be able to relate to them and empathize with what they're going through, what they're struggling with, and also kind of see what they're doing well and point those things out to them. So I think that's something I enjoy doing. Like I said, is talking guys through the situation and kind of where they're at in their career and helping them to hopefully kind of take that next step and become the next version of themselves.
If somebody asked me about you, I think you just hit the nail on the head talking about all the different roles and inside your journey. And now that you're putting up these numbers, a lot of people aren't going to remember this, but I've been doing this a long time in a lot of different sports, and we see a lot of athletes, they get to a moment in their career, it's a make or break time. And unfortunately for a lot of guys, it breaks them and they don't end up having careers. You were really at that point there in spring training. It came down to the very last decision, and you had played so well, you had earned the right to be here. Just go back, because this is so we could talk about mechanics and swing changes, but at the highest level, it's so much about the mental side of this game. Just talk about what that meant to you to make this club basically on the last day, and you've never looked back.
Yeah, it was a special moment. It was a stressful day, and it was a relieving feeling when I got that news, obviously, because I kind of, I had been DFA'd and then claimed in November. And I had talking to Mark early that offseason, as soon as I got claimed, talking to David, talking to finding some of the guys in the front office, the message was like, hey, like, we're not, nothing is guaranteed, obviously, but like, if you come in and you perform well in spring training, we think there's an opportunity for you to make this team and earn some at-bats. And so that was my mindset coming to that camp, was just go in, prove myself, do what I do offensively, and kind of let everything take care of itself. And for that to be rewarded with that last roster spot and be given the opportunity to kind of earn more bats as we got into the season was really cool.
Well, a lot of people don't realize you were playing hurt too this season. That's what also makes your season so remarkable. The numbers are just, they're MVP-like. And I know it's something that you didn't want to dwell on. You want to be in the lineup every single day, so you DH. We've been telling people, hey, listen, he's going to be back playing some outfield this year. Just talk about battling through that forearm issue.
Yeah, it was, it happened really, really early in the year. So it was just kind of 145 games of managing it and dealing with it and treating it every day, making sure we took care of it after the game to just be able to kind of get to the next day and get back in the lineup. And our training staff did a fantastic job of keeping me on the field, for the whole season, which was our goal all along. And so, yeah, got it fixed, had surgery right after the year was over. We're about 6.5, 7 weeks into that. I just had a follow-up with doctor. Everything looks great, so we're right on track. PT is going well. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to being fully healthy next year, being able to get back out in the outfield and contribute in that way as well. But as far as this past year goes, it was just kind of a day-to-day kind of just making sure we're taking care of it, making sure we're managing as best as possible so that I could stay in the lineup. It's
not easy to DH. Everybody thinks, it's 4 at-bats, but there's a lot of time in between those at-bats. There's a lot to think about. You're not going out on defense. So what was it like getting into the routine? Did you have a routine? What did you do in between bats to keep not only the body and the blood flowing, but to keep your mind engaged?
Yeah, I think for me at least, like, I don't have any superstitions or anything like that. I kind of just subconsciously fall into a routine without really realizing it. So I did a lot of pacing. I was kind of hardly ever just sitting still. A lot of walking around between at bats. A lot of watching video, which there's a balance in watching video, and I tended to watch more video, to watch pitch sequences, watch how he's pitching other guys. Not trying to dwell on mechanics or what my swing looked like in game, but trying to figure out something about the pitcher. Hey, he likes to. If he throws an 0-1 changeup, like, he likes to go back to fastball, or if he misses arm side with fastball, he doesn't go slide, or something like that, like little tendencies to pick up to help me, and then to kind of relay that information to other guys as well and help them with their bats. So I would spend a lot of time walking around. At home, I went up in the weight room just to make sure I stayed moving, whatever that was. And then, like I said, just try to study the pitcher as much as I could to both benefit me in my next few at bats, and then see if I could find anything out to help the team as well.
This past season, as you start going through it and the numbers, because last year you started out really, really hot and it was kind of up and down. You were so consistent this year, 47 points higher with your batting average. I tell everybody, when you hit for batting average, it just raises everything up because the power's there. just where was it in the season where you were feeling that consistency? You had that confidence going in every single day. When did it really start happening for you?
I think probably early June or mid to late June, I think, is kind of when I kind of made the switch from who I was in 23 to who I was for the rest of the year. I think up until I think it was a series in Anaheim towards the back half of June, that up until that point, I had kind of been who I was in 23 still. The strikeouts were high. The average was kind of right where it had been the previous year. I had the power spurts, which is what were kind of keeping me productive. And then I made a few adjustments, both swing-wise and preparation-wise, and to my approach that series in Anaheim. And for the rest of the year, I was able to remain much more consistent in the fact that, like, I've always been very streaky power-wise, which is how a lot of guys work in the big leagues, right? The slugging kind of comes in bunches. You hit one homer, you tend to hit four. It's kind of that thing. So the difference between this year and last year was during those between those streaks of power, between those little home run bursts, I was able to maintain. I was able to take my singles. I was able to take my walks. I was able to continue to get on base and remain productive in other ways to where I wasn't just solely relying on hitting homers to produce runs.
A lot of people don't know you're a big breakfast guy. I still think we need to get you that breakfast sponsorship. I'm going to work on that this offseason. When you think breakfast and you think the big leagues, when you're traveling around, you go to a series, where's the place that you go, like, I can't wait to get there?
My favorite place is in Detroit. It's in Birmingham where we stay. It's a place called Toast right down the road from the hotel. That's my favorite spot in the league to go get. To wake up in the morning and go get breakfast.
The Townsend Hotel in Birmingham.
Right, yeah, that's right. Right down the road from the Townsend. About 2 blocks.
Yeah, because it's the thing that's so interesting about as you get older is learning, getting back into routines, is how to take care of your body, what to do, what not to do, because that's so key for someone like yourself to stay consistent throughout the year. Is you got to learn how to fuel the body, how to take care of the body, how to stay healthy. We just look at numbers and we worry about home runs and RBIs, but a big part of this game is knowing yourself and how to keep the machine running at full optimum.
Absolutely, and especially on the road, right? Because being a West Coast team, there's a lot of travel involved for our schedule. There's a lot of long flights. There's a lot of changing time zones, and you got to learn to manage that as far as your sleep goes, as far as when you're eating, as far as kind of learning what works best for you. I've kind of learned over the years that I tend to respond better. I tend to play better. If I get up in the morning, I get out and walk around and go get something to eat. And then instead of laying in bed up until the bus times, whatever it is, if I make myself get up and do something in the morning, my body tends to feel better for the rest of the day. I feel more energetic. I feel more rested. And then that leads to better performance, obviously.
Well, I got to tell you, it's been great to watch your journey. It's been a lot of fun. You've been an inspiration to a lot of people inside the organization, and we're all real excited. The way it ended as a team, the way this team is going, and knowing more young guys are coming, this team is just looking up. So enjoy the holidays. You got Thanksgiving, you got Christmas, you got New Year's. Enjoy that with the young family, and we'll see you in Mesa, Arizona. I know everybody's going to be excited to get the 2025 season going.
Perfect. Can't wait, guys. See y'all soon.
All right, Rook, be well.
Thank you. You too.
Brent Rooker, the Silver Slugger Award winner for designated hitter in the American League. And my God, what a year it was for him. Hit 293 once again in a sport that now has gone out of its way to poo-poo batting average. But we talk about all the time here on A's Cast and A's Cast Live and then the different shows that we do. It's simply a game of math, right? The more you hit, the more you're on base. The more you hit and the more you hit for power consistently, the more your slug goes up. The more your RBIs go up. The more everything goes up. So when you hit and you hit for average, all of your numbers go up. And look, just the difference he was hitting 246 versus 293, 47-point difference. You see that the OPS goes from 817 to 927. The OPS plus goes from 127 to 165. I mean, his RBIs. I mean, it was just 9 more home runs, Commander. But he had 112 RBIs last year compared to 69 the year before.
It's a big jump.
That's a huge jump.
That's 50 53 RBI jump for Rook.
But it's only 9. It's only 9 additional home runs.
Well, one thing that you brought up a lot on the post-game show this year, and I looked it up, multiple times during the post-game show, is the number of infield hits that Rooker had. And I think it was like 12 or 13 infield hits.
Yeah,
he had this year, and I think he didn't have. I forget what it was, how many he had last year, but it was more this year than he had last year. So
opposite field hits.
Yeah, he improved a lot of different things this year, and it was great to see the improvement from Rook from last year to this year. As you mentioned, the 47-point batting average boost that really helps there too.
Look at the hits. The year before, 2023, 114. Last year, 160. And not everything's a smash hit. It's putting the ball in play. And at 29 years old, puts up a WAR of 5.6. So the numbers are all there. And I know for some people, all the numbers, you don't want to hear them. But total bases goes from 226 to 307. He truly had an MVP-like year. He's got the numbers that would justify getting votes. Obviously, the team didn't win enough games, so I don't know how that will pan out. But playing in 145 games, doing it hurt, and it's just a lot of fun to watch. And yes, probably more importantly, he has become that guy that everybody in the clubhouse, because when you're with the A's, especially right now, not going to have a guy that's been around for 10 years, but he's kind of like the closest thing, and we'll see what David Force and company does this offseason to add to the team, but he's the guy that's been around. Maybe he doesn't have the games played, but he's been in multiple organizations. He just talked about his journey. He knows what it's like to be the top prospect. He knows what it's like to be the guy that's DFA'd, and he knows what it's like to be the guy that has an MVP-like season.
We'll find out how many MVP votes he gets because the MVP award comes out, I think, next Thursday, the 21st. So obviously we can assume that Aaron Judge is going to run away with it in the American League, as he should.
Wow.
That breaking news, am I breaking news?
You're calling it already?
I think the hold on, let's
and now you're going to say Otani's going to win the
Hold on,
National
let's get
League?
A key race alert. We'll check in. I think Aaron Judge is going to win and Otani's going to win the National League. Soto's probably going to finish in the top 3, and Bobby Wood Jr. will finish in the top 3. You can put it down now. Those 3 guys will be in the top 3. What order? Obviously Judge, and then, I don't know, Soto or Witt. And probably 4th will be Jose Ramirez.
I would say Witt will be 2 for sure.
Yes, he should be.
Yeah.
And then you go Soto, and then probably Jose Ramirez. So there's and then obviously.
But there's basically 10. You'll see the top 10. Rooker probably will be in the bottom 10. But, I mean, it's because of the season that the team had, not because of the season he had. He if he's playing on another team, let's say he's playing on a team that won 100 games, he's getting a lot of votes. He had one of the best years. If you start and you have the numbers, if you look at athletics, Philadelphia, Kansas City, Oakland, now to Sacramento, he had one of the best years in the history of this long organization. No question about it.
So I looked it up, and yes, I qualified it by looking at Rooker's numbers from this year. But A's players, as you mentioned, Philadelphia, Oakland, with a 290 or higher batting average, 35 or more home runs, 100 or more RBI, a 920 or higher OPS, and a 160 or higher OPS plus single season. There are 5 guys. Rooker's now the 6th. Al Simmons did it once in 1930. Jimmy Fox did it 5 times in 30, 32, 32, 3, 4, and 5. Jose in 88 when he won the AL MVP. Mark McGwire in 96 had a good year that year. And then Giambi did it back-to-back years in 2000 and 2001. So pretty good lore.
Well, just think about that list too, A's fans. Reggie Jackson won an MVP. He's not on that list. And obviously Reggie was an unbelievable A. Ricky Henderson's not on that list. We talk about the year, a guy that finished 3rd in the MVP balloting behind Trout and Bregman. That's Marcus Semien. He's not on that list. I mean, so it really shows you the kind of year that Brent Rooker had this season was really, really special. But yes, going forward, what he means to the team just beyond numbers. He showed the young guys that, you know what, you're going to have to play hurt. That's something that's really a bone of contention right now in all of professional sports, mainly the NBA. Our guys going to show up when they don't feel 100%. Now, in the NFL, you have to. You want to have a career, you're going to have to play hurt. But these other sports,
Hockey's starting to do it now. The Sharks are doing it.
you got to start. So Sharks starting to do what?
They're doing development days with Macklin Celebrity and Will Smith, their top 2 draft picks.
You got to learn that you're not going to be 100%. So he showed you got to be able to manage it. You got to be able to play through it. Now, if you're struggling, he's somebody you can go to because God knows he knows what it's like to struggle. He knows what it's like to do the old up and down to AAA. I mean, Brent Rooker is becoming a tremendous resource for a lot of the young players that are going to be coming up. And it's great to see. It's great to see. It was a lot of fun to watch. And to see the growth of a lot of the young players and to see what it's going to be like this year. Because all of a sudden, and I know it's way, way early. We're not even towards the winter meetings yet. But just kind of doing some nightly work, and MLB Network is starting to look at certain teams and what lineups look like. The American League West is going to be wide open next year. It really is. We don't know where Bregman's going to go. Bregman could be gone from the Houston Astros. You know, Seattle still doesn't have offense. Texas is downsizing payroll. Yes, a team that just won the World Series. They were the defending champs up until when the Dodgers won. The World Series, you win the World Series, you're flush with cash. Well, not when you lose your television contract. And they're going to be downsizing payroll. Super interesting what the West is going to look like next year.
Well, you're bearing the lead. The Angels signed like 5 guys already. I mean, Kyle Hendricks, Travis d'Arnaud, Kevin Newman. Someone made up I can't remember who it was. It might have been Farron or Duke on Power Alley and MLB Network Radio. Speaking of that, Chris Gimenez from MLB Network Radio will be joining us in about 25 minutes. They mentioned the point with the Angels that bringing all these guys in washes their Eric Young Sr.'s there, how they think that maybe they're a team that could pursue Max Fried to come there because all those Braves guys are there, and he's from Southern California. So that's a big guy that, because Artie Moreno said they want to increase payroll, they want to win now. So that's a team. And I heard Jerry DiPoto on Buster Olney's podcast yesterday talk about how they could deal from their starting pitching because they have some depth there. Obviously, we know that already. They only used 8 starters all last year. He goes, we're looking to increase our look. We're trying to improve at second base, third base, and half the year at first base. They said he made it sound like they're set in the outfield with Robles, Julio, Luke Raley, and Randy Arozarena. Obviously, they have Cal Raleigh, catcher. So they're looking to get a third, second, and half part-time first baseman. I don't know if they're going to get Pete Alonso, but maybe someone like Christian Walker, someone they can sign a free agency.
They're a long way away. They got pitching, though.
As we said,
they got pitching.
They used 8 starters, and they were all really good. Well, their top 5 were really good.
They got pitching, but that's the point. No one is a clear cut. You're not beating those guys. There's not a Dodgers in the American League West. There's not someone who has won the division 11 out of 12 years. That's not there. And it means it's wide open for everybody. And I got to tell you, the confidence that this team had leaving last season, looking around going, you know what? We are way better. And the players that are coming to help, and to see what the offseason moves will be, as David Force said on this show, not worried about what he said other places, but you could go to the GM meetings where everybody's, for some reason they were looking for the A's to subtract, and it's like, no, they're going to be adding.
Yeah, he literally said, we're not trading Rooker, and now everyone's going, oh, he's the guy that the A's are going to trade this offseason. Usually when David says something, he's honest about it.
He doesn't lie.
Yeah.
I mean, he said it multiple times, whether we're doing them for the actual radio broadcast or we have them every single, about every 2 weeks here on A's Cast Live. He's always said, I don't lie. And the reason why I don't lie and I don't throw trial balloons out there like a lot of front office people do, because he doesn't want to get caught in lies. He told us Rooker's not getting traded. He told us that at the deadline. He told us off. He told us roundabout on the air, but he told us off the air. He's not going anywhere.
Same with Mason Miller.
He is. And by the way, Mason Miller, second team all MLB.
There it is.
Congratulations to Mason Miller as another athletic getting nominated for, I guess it's not an award, but you're on a team. But yeah, second team all MLB. It's a big deal. And for Mason Miller, the first year closer, we had no clue. You have no clue when you take a starter and you say, we got to find out a way to keep you healthy, because babying you as a starter is not doing anything for us. And you just never know what it's going to look like. You have no clue when you take a guy who's used to going once every 5 days. Now with him, it was like once whenever he could go. Well, let's call it once every 6 days, once every 5 days. How is he going to translate now to when he goes to the bullpen? Because it's the transition of, you don't have all of this time to get ready. That's the biggest thing that messes with starters, is they're so used to on game day that they pitch. It's the long stroll out. They run a little bit, whether they run poles, foul pole to foul pole on the warning track. Maybe they do some sprints. They do light toss. Some guys warm up with a football. Then they'll play long toss. Then they got their routine when they get on the mound, how they like to go about it, the bullpen to get ready. Then they're done. They high-five everybody and come back to the dugout. And then away they go. They're used to that routine, right? We talk about routine. Sports psychologists talk about routine constantly. Well, there is no routine in the bullpen. There may be for when you get loose, but when that phone rings, hey, get up. You got to get up, get it ready to go, get the blood going, and let's rock. You got 10 throws. Get up, get ready. How are you going, and how are you going to manage that with a guy that you're always worried about if he's going to be hurt? You're going to have the training wheels on him. Like if he closes out Tuesday, I can't bring him out Wednesday. I can't use him till Thursday, Friday. Well, you know what? He passed all the tests. Mason Miller passed all the tests. And as he was doing it, you had the people who kept going, you know what, though? Got to put him back as a starter. He's going to have to go back as a starter. And we're sitting here going, no. If I'm gonna live in the world where we're going more bullpen, then your starter, the guy that goes once every 5, maybe once every 6 days, is less important. I mean, the Los Angeles Dodgers just won the World Series with basically no starters.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right? I mean,
2.5.
The days of a young Josh Beckett is going to go on 3 days rest for Jack McKeon and your Marlins in Yankee Stadium and throw a complete game shutout. Those days are over in the World Series. We're now going to bullpen you to death. Well, Mason Miller coming out of the bullpen factors in way more wins than he can as a starter. And now that he's done it for a year, and you started to see throughout the summer and then towards the end of the year when the A's really started winning some games and starting to have some consistency, that, you know what, he can go back-to-back. I mean, he's not going to be like Clase and he's going to go 5 straight days. Now, you saw the wear and tear on him at the end of the season and in the postseason, but now you can go back-to-back. Now you can feel comfortable that I can throw him. This kid's got a magic arm. He's a hell of a nice guy. Now don't punch anything and break your hand. And, he could be somebody. You know, the awards have come out, and in the American League, we call it the Mariano Rivera Award. In the National League, it's the Trevor Hoffman. But, Clase won that, and he deserved that. He had one of the best years a closer's ever had. But Mason Miller could be on that track, and to be somebody that factors in as this team starts to win more games, he's able to contribute more. And the one thing that had to happen was he had to feel the role of the juice, right? And we talked to Mason Miller on this show about that Yankee Stadium save, where, he's going up against Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, and it's Yankee Stadium, and you're in New York, and he's pumping 103 point whatever it was. You feel that juice. You don't get that as a starter. You get that, and we've talked to Dennis Eckersley about that, Hall of Famer. Where is Zach? Do we have Zach up here?
Yeah, it's right there. No, wait. No, that's Raleigh.
We got 2 Raleighs. I don't think we have an Eck bobblehead. But anyway, so we talked about that as Eck won over 100 games as a starter, but then came a reliever. But then there's that juice that you have as a reliever that you get coming out of the bullpen, the finality. And now, guys developed, ever since Trevor Hoffman and Mariano Rivera had the songs going, and, Now the fireworks are going. Edwin Diaz has got Timmy Trumpet. You got this. You got the grand. It's the grand entrance. Closers never had. Raleigh Fingers could be out there for 3 innings. He didn't have a grand entrance. Now it's like it's the star at the end coming into the show, and you're coming in to blow everybody away. It's a fun role now. The closer role is unbelievable. It's a big part of it. We're in the entertainment business. It's a huge part of the show, the finality of this whole thing, right? You're coming in. You're the guy coming in. You're the Grim Reaper coming in to end this thing. Well, Mason Miller has developed into that role, so I'm happy for him to get second team, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. I have no thoughts of putting him back in the rotation. None.
No, not at all. And if it wasn't for what the year Emmanuel Clase had, and what you mentioned was one of the greatest seasons ever for a reliever. We saw him, wear down in the postseason. But you mentioned great closer entrances. He started coming out to Wild Thing, like Rick Vaughn did in Major League, which was really good. He started doing that at home games, obviously. So, but if it wasn't for him having the year he had, Mason Miller could have been all MLB first team, because it was Clase and Ryan Helsley, the closer from the Cardinals, and Mason Miller and Kirby Yates were the all MLB second team guys. So it was an incredible season. Everyone talking about Mason going back to the rotation. I think you leave him in the bullpen. The A's have a lot of options to use in the rotation, and there's guys on free agency that they could look at, that they could bring in on 1 or 2 year deals to help buoy the rotation, and to get to Mason Miller in the 9th inning. TJ McFarland's now back, our friend. He resigned with last week.
35-year-old. I don't know if he's still 30. Yeah, 35-year-old. But here's the deal. Look at this. Mason Miller, because everybody remembers he had the no-hitter going and got taken out and what he could be. Mason Miller in 2023 gave you a grand total of 10 games. And the problem with that is that every single time he goes out and starts, you're worried about how he's going to feel the next day. You're always wondering, and if he's out there for 5 innings, do you let him go for a 6? You're always worried about the pitch count. You're always worried. Last year, Mason Miller gave you 55 appearances. Now, think about that. 55 appearances, and they were babying him early. And they had to, right? They had to figure out, how's he going to take to this role, and can his body take it? Well, now that you're coming off a year where he's had 55 appearances, yeah, you're damn right he can take it. So I don't know what it could look like next year. 70? And if you're telling me I can get Mason Miller for 70 games versus as a starter, I'm praying for maybe 20, he can factor in way, way more as a closer. And a lot of fun. An all-star, and now second team all MLB. So some positives definitely to talk about for the Athletics. And Mason Miller, still just 25 years old, will be 26, entering his prime. Confidence, has a role. You build the bullpen down from him. He's special. It's a God-given ability. You just got to keep healthy and let him do his thing. And he'll get better at it, right? Because there were some rough patches. But Mason Miller, in the end, a 2.49 ERA, 28 saves, 65 innings pitched, 104 strikeouts. 65 innings pitched, 104 strikeouts. He's not perfect. And you know what? To be fair to Clase, his readings, let's call them readings, right? We're still pretty much the same in the postseason. It's just the philosophy that the front offices have with starting pitchers, right? The philosophy is the more you see them as a hitter, the more effective you are going to be as a hitter against that pitcher. The second time I see him, third time I see him, fourth time I see him. Well, that theory in the regular season is now going into the postseason against the relievers. And front offices, I don't know how they're going to deal with this. And maybe the next time, because we'll be able to kind of recap the year and talk playoffs with David Force, is like, when you're now in a 7-game series or a 5-game series and you're having the same relievers throw, are you having the same effect? Because now in a regular season, I switch from town to town to town to town the way the season works, right? You're constantly seeing new teams, new pitchers. Well, if I'm in a series of 5 or 7 games and I'm now seeing Clase for 4 straight games, that kind of goes with that theory of I don't want to show my starting pitcher over and over and over again to you. Well, now you're showing the same relievers to the same hitters game after game after game after game. And if you're bringing in relievers so early in these postseason games, man, these hitters have now seen these guys, and they're all basically 2-pitch pitchers. So now are you going to be as effective? It's still hard as hell to hit, but are you still going to be as effective if I've seen you 3 straight games coming out of the bullpen? So it kind of goes with what front offices fear for starting pitchers in the regular season. They've now brought that to the relievers because they use them so much in the postseason and they use them so early and often. You've brought that same problem.
Yeah, and it's difficult because these managers rely and these front offices rely on these bullpen guys so much, as we saw with Cleveland. They were example A of what
Stephen Vogt, my God.
It was the same guys. It was Clase and then Eli Morgan, and they had a bunch of rookies on their staff that would come out and just throw every single day.
How about the Detroit series?
Oh yeah.
And between him and AJ Hinch, it's like somebody gets on base. Oh my God, get somebody up in the bullpen. And it's always the theory that you could really challenge is the theory that the guy that's warming up is always better than the guy on the mound. That's like the belief, or that's how they manage. They manage that the unknown is always better than the known. That on that day, because the only thing that matters is how you pitch on that day. Right? It's great that we can look back at what happened in the season. You can project, you can do it. But the only thing that matters is if we're playing this playoff game on Tuesday, that's the only thing that matters is this Tuesday. And when you keep shuffling through relievers, you're playing the theory of, I'm just hoping the next guy and then the next guy, because you're talking about using like 7 pitchers in a game. You're always hoping that the next guy and then the next guy and then the next guy and the next guy are better. And that's not always the case. And when you go out early, you take that starter out early, and now you're going to Russian roulette with the bullpen, man, I don't know. But that theory of I don't want the hitters to see the same guy over and over again. Well, when you're going to the bullpen early in all these playoff games, I've seen your very very best. I saw it in game 1. I saw it in game 2. We have the day off. I have boatloads of video. I got the virtual reality. I've seen your best relievers over and over. You get a lot more comfortable. I mean, hitters will tell you that. Remember, we had that conversation with Mark Kotze about facing Greg Maddux. Once you face Maddux, and hard to believe, but Mark Kotze did have really good success against Greg Maddux. He saw him a lot. You feel more comfortable against that guy. Getting back to me, I know I got off the track on that.
Well, I was going to say, I was looking it up while you're talking. The Guardians used 4 starters in the postseason and 10 relievers.
Yeah. But you're seeing those relievers over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, it was the guys they kept using: Gaddis, Herron, Morgan, Cade Smith, Cantillo. They've used like the same guys over and over and over again, and they were high leverage guys. But Vogt just kept going to him, and at the end, it kind of cost him against the Yankees. And you mentioned it too with AJ Hinch. If it wasn't Terry Skubal out there, he panicked the whole time because they had nobody else to use. So the Tigers are a very interesting team this offseason to see what they do to address their starting pitching. Well, every team's looking for starting pitching. Who are we kidding? But they're a team that's going to look to see who they
do not fall into that trap. I've had to do that like multiple times playing golf, and everybody wants to talk baseball, and then everybody brings up, and it's like, stop talking pitching. Stop. We're going to have to do that at the winter meetings. When we have our guest on and they start talking about, they got to, like, folks, we used, what was the grand total this year?
855, I believe.
All right. So we went 863 in 2023. Last year, 855. 1,918 pitchers in 2 years. If you're telling me you're building a pitching staff, well, we got to find our 5. You're kidding yourself. Well, we got to find our bullpen. You're kidding yourself. Those numbers, we're talking almost 2,000 pitchers in 2 years. If you're using that amount of pitching for all 30 teams, that means you're running guys in and out, starters, relievers. Yeah, you can have an outlier, like let's say the Tigers of 12 or 13 when they only use 7, or the Mariners this year 8. Everybody else is running out a boatload of guys. And I sent you from Codify yesterday the top 6 pitchers and average annual value of a contract. So your 6 highest paid guys last year. So your 6 highest paid pitchers, starting pitchers last year. Grand total of 21 wins amongst all of them. 21. So the highest paid guy, the guys that receive the most money in their bank account, when you're talking about Scherzer, Verlander, Cole, DeGrom, Strasburg.
Oh, can you get the last one? National.
Who is it?
Patrick Corbin.
That's your 6. Go. Scherzer, hurt. Verlander, hurt. DeGrom, hurt. Strasburg doesn't even play. Cole was hurt. Finally gave you something. And who's the last one again? Corbin was terrible.
Oh.
Those are your top.
It wasn't that bad. 6-13 with a 5.62 ERA.
Those are the top guys that made the most money. So you want to tell me you want to spend a bunch of money on pitching? It's like, okay, knock your socks off. But like building pitching now, it's a war of attrition. I mean, you can't. And then how about the Gerrit Cole saga? We've been off the air. Gerrit Cole, he's a Boris guy, isn't he?
Yes.
So Gerrit Cole might have had the most bizarre, weak sauce opt-out in the history of professional sports. Gerrit Cole, if you weren't following it, comes out of the World Series feeling pretty good about himself, right? Even though he doesn't cover first and his team's, he starts 2 games, his team doesn't win 1. Gerrit Cole opts out. And the Yankees go, oh, you want to go try and find somewhere else to be employed? Knock your socks off. Gerrit Cole then goes, oh, no, I'm opting back in. I was just calling your bluff. I wanted you to give me an extra year at 36, the way the contract's written. The Yankees, he could opt out. The Yankees could say, okay, we'll pick up that. We'll give you an extra year for $36 million, which I don't even know, late 30s, where he'll be at that point, like 38, 39, whatever it was. So he opts out. You have signed me to a deal. I have an opt-out in the deal. Most front office people have no problem with opt-outs. They like giving them. So I opt out of my deal, and Brian Cashman plays chicken. You know, they're playing a game of chicken, and Brian Cashman goes, yeah, no. And then after Brian Cashman goes, no. They immediately, Cole and Boris, well, we want to opt back into the contract.
I think it was John Boy had the best. So he was like, Gerrit Cole opts out of a 4-year, $134 million deal.
144.
To receive a 4-year, $144 million deal.
Yeah. It's like you said, I want to get divorced. You walked out the house for like 1 minute, and then you begged your way back in.
It's like that gif they use of the grandfather from Simpsons, where he walks into the bar and he takes his hat off and he puts on the hat rack and he circles around and he takes the hat and walks back out. That's what Gerrit Cole did essentially in free agency.
Yeah, he basically said, you know what, I'm going to go look for another wife. There's 29 other. And he walked out for one. It took like 2 steps and went, yeah, I'm coming back. Will you please take me back? And then the Juan Soto saga, it all begins. Woke up this morning to an alert that Juan Soto is meeting with the Boston Red Sox. My God, we're going to have to deal with this every day.
Well, apparently he's impressed with the Red Sox. Impressed. It's a good ballpark for him to play in. Give him that. His numbers could be. He already has great numbers at 26 years old. They can be even more inflated if he plays at Fenway.
We have to deal with this every single day.
And until he signs, I doubt we're going to see a lot of action.
I mean, I hope to God he signs when we're in Dallas for the winter meetings. I hope to God. But if this thing gets dragged out, oh my! Remember how long Manny Ramirez got dragged? I mean, not Manny Ramirez. Manny actually was a great one back in the day because that's when they first started really televising the winter meetings. And I want to say it was ESPN had they followed Cleveland and Boston into the rooms of Duquette, the GM then of the Red Sox, and we got to actually kind of see it. But I'm thinking of Bryce Harper and Manny Machado, how that dragged out. Oh, my God, if we got to deal with that. We got to deal with this for months. I hope we get to Dallas, make the deal wherever he goes, and then we're done with it.
I'm with you because this makes things like I think Passan said it could be a busy quick start to the offseason. And Robert Murray was on foul territory, and he goes, no, it's going to be a slow offseason.
And Robert Murray's been on this show a lot, and he seems to be right. Do we have Chris? Chris ready to rock? Chris, welcome back to Ace Cast Live. How are you?
Oh, he says he can't hear us.
He can't hear.
Okay.
Was he on today, by the way?
I'm not entirely sure. Let me see why he can't.
Rooker could just hear.
Yeah, I know. So I'm not sure. I'll text with him or talk with him.
Yeah. So Juan Soto, it to me, when we start talking about the amount of money, we don't know. I mean, some people, does the contract start with a 7? Does the contract start with a 6? We saw, obviously, the huge extension for Mike Trout. We've seen these guys sign in the $300 million range, whether you want to talk about it. As we mentioned, Harper, Machado, Betts, Lindor, Nando, the guys that got 300. I mean, we saw the $300 million contracts, and you're like, wow. Now, if we're talking about Juan Soto getting into the $600 million, it becomes such a business decision at that point, which is not fun to talk about as baseball fans. It's a thing that football has over baseball and has for a long time. You don't sit there and watch NFL games on Sunday and talk about what guys make because it's a salary cap. We understand that you can get rid of any player. The worst thing that happens to you is a hit to your salary cap and a guy's gone. Football, guys don't get old and expensive. We understand that. Baseball, we get really old and really expensive. And the guy who just signed the huge contract, and we learned a lot about Shohei Ohtani. We learned about the value of Shohei Ohtani to the Angels from the Angels when they came to town. We understand the return on investment of what you can make internationally off Shohei Ohtani. And now we're hearing the reports about what the Dodgers are able to make. When you have a player that you can sell him to the world, you can pay him. Yes, you can give him whatever, $700 million contract, defer it, whatever. But if you're making over $100 million off of a player, you start thinking about this player is a global brand. I can sell this player. Folks, teams used to buy advertising from the A's so the ribbon behind home plate, they could put Japanese advertisement up. We were making money off Shohei Ohtani. Everybody's making money. I understand how good Juan Soto is, but unless there's some big-time corporations coming out of the Dominican that want to buy advertising, I don't know what the return on investment is. If you're going to say I'm going to pay this guy over $600 million, it's great what his numbers are, but I'm making real money off Shohei Ohtani internationally. So can Chris hear us now? Chris, welcome back.
We are good.
How are you?
We are good. I'm good. Sorry about that, guys. It always seems to, every time I come on, I have like technical difficulties, and I'm the least technical quality person, I guess you should say, in the world.
So you saying you don't have a technician there working on your Sirius XM? Sirius XM doesn't.
No, unfortunately not. I don't. It's the budget. They cut that out of the budget.
We just had Brent Rooker on before we started getting into free agency. And, we just had Brent on, and his story You talk about a guy traded multiple times, DFA'd,
Right.
and then all of a sudden the light goes on. You got to remember, last year it came down. It was the very last decision. It was between Christian Pache and Brent Rooker. Pache was out of options, so we thought that Pache was going to get the nod because he was a part of the Matt Olson trade. But the front office went, you know what, they've liked him since his days in the SEC, and they said, you know what, we believe in Rooker. And think about that. He was the last. You know what? We're gonna keep him on the roster and give him a shot. Just to think about sports, the make or break, what it can do for a career. Think about where he was at that point, and then to really have like an MVP-like season. I mean, as someone who played in the big leagues, you really got to appreciate the journey of Brent Rooker.
Yeah, there's absolutely no denying that. I'm still waiting for that opportunity too in my career, and I'm sitting here at almost 42 years old. So thankfully it happened for Rook a little bit sooner, but I think the cool thing about it is getting that opportunity and then not letting it go by the wayside. You know, he was ready for the opportunity. He was able to step up. Things started a little bit slow for him too at the beginning of the season, and boy, did he pick it up in a heartbeat. And you talked about a guy that was 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, almost hit 300 the whole year. Very few guys in Major League Baseball can actually accomplish that. He was able to do it in essentially like 3/4 of a season, which gives you even more credit to him going forward, because this guy can flat out hit. I love the way he thinks about hitting and the way he publicizes how he thinks about hitting. I think more people need to hear stuff like that.
Well, I say it all the time because we have all these people who want to poo-poo batting average, and they say it doesn't matter. And I go, well, we're dealing with math. Can we just look at this as a math equation? The more you put into your math equation, the better your numbers are going to be. And it's very obvious when a guy ups his batting average 47 points from the year before, he hit a few more home runs, but everything else went up. So you see how the tide rises all boats. That tide really is batting average, because all of a sudden all of his numbers, his power numbers, his on base, but yes, all of his numbers went up because he hit 47 points higher. You as a former player, I mean, you just think about it from a math standpoint, the higher you hit, the more you're going to be on base, the more doubles you're going to have. And the biggest thing that we saw with him, and no one wanted to talk about, was infield singles and singles to the opposite field.
Right.
We all want to talk about home runs, but it was putting the ball in play is what changed him really as an offensive player.
Yeah, and I've heard him come on even our channel on Sirius XM, among other pundits, talk about that exact thing, that his approach changed a little bit in regards to, okay, I still want to be able to do damage, which he did plenty of, but there's maybe certain counts in certain situations of a game, and each game presents different situations that you have the opportunity to do this. But he kind of, I don't want to say choked up and like shortened his swing, but I think he more so changed his approach of what he was actually trying to accomplish at the plate, maybe looking for different pitches in different situations. And now he's going to be pitched differently because of what he's done in the past. Like to begin with, he is now being smart. He's taking what these pitchers are giving him. If they're not giving him the opportunity to drive a ball in the gap, he's completely okay with shooting a ball the other way. And to your point, that's exactly right. You see a lot of these other numbers come up. Pitchers have a tendency to respect hitters a significant amount more if you've proven that you can shoot balls all over the ballpark, because now they know they can't go to a certain area or a certain pitch to get you out anymore. They want to try to stay away from the slug part of it, but full well knowing mistakes are made when pitchers are trying to be too fine with stuff. And I think we saw that, and he was the perfect example of that this year.
All right, let's stay in the math department since you're a catcher. We're going to hear people this offseason talk about building pitching staffs, whether you need to build on your rotation or you need to build your bullpen. I kind of laugh at it, and I'll give you the numbers. 2 years ago, 30 teams, we used 863 pitchers.
That is laughable.
Okay. Last year, we used 855 pitchers. So in 2 years, we've almost used over 2,000 human beings to pitch in Major League Baseball. So you as a catcher, or I make you a GM, how can you honestly tell me you're going to build a rotation of 5 guys, or we have a bullpen, we have 13 guys? You're going to go through turn and burn, a turnstile of pitchers throughout a year. So we go into the offseason. It's almost ridiculous when I hear people talk about, well, you know what we're going to do with our pitching staff. You need so many pitchers. You need them in the big leagues. You need them in the minor leagues. I mean, the numbers show us that.
Yeah, and I mean, just take the Dodgers for an example. We're talking about the World Series champions, who I believe they had 17 different starting pitchers this season alone. Any good general manager, any good catcher, which apparently you're throwing me into that category, so choose very wisely at your next words there. But I think you have to build out as much depth as humanly possible. And I brought up the Dodgers just a minute ago. They're kind of the prime example of that, right? That you can go out and you can spend a lot of money on certain areas of your ball club, but you still have to have those depth pieces, full well knowing injuries happen, as we see year in and year out. The Dodgers, again, prime example of injuries. I think they had, during the playoffs, a starting rotation on the injured list that was making over $100 million just with like the sixth of them combined. It's crazy to think, but it also is so important to be able to have that depth that you can choose. You can bring guys up from AA, AAA to have the opportunity to come in and fill that spot when you have guys on the injured list. And I think every single year you see it. I think just gone are the days where you're going to have a 5-man rotation where every guy goes out there and takes 25 to 35 starts. It just does not work like that anymore. The game has changed to the point where we now have openers. We now rely on bullpens extremely heavier than we did even 10 years ago. The value of the starting pitcher has gone down so much, and I'm not talking about monetary value. I'm just talking about the value that they provide in regards to innings. We see teams want to go to the matchups a lot more, but with that being said, they're being relied upon, these guys from AA and AAA, to come up and throw huge, meaningful innings, whether it be the A's or it be the World Series champion Dodgers. All these teams are the same in that regard. You have to compile as much depth as possible just because that's the way the pitching rotations work now.
And that's why I have a lot of respect for the growth that I've seen in Shea Langoliers. And, you know, the days of you get to know your pitchers, you want to know what makes them tick, you know, in the tough situations, what are they good at? What are they not good at? What can you rely on? What's the out pitch? Like, you want to know the heartbeat of your pitcher. And I'm thinking about a young catcher like Shea Langoliers, who obviously you've gotten to see him offensively, what he's able to do. He's a really good athlete. He's got power. He's getting better. But from a catching standpoint, when you're shuffling through all these pitchers, how do you really know who these guys? I mean, you're catching how many guys that you didn't catch them in spring training? Right. They've shown up from. I mean, how tough is that for a young catcher to know all of the pitchers when you have so many guys coming in and out of the clubhouse?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic question, and I want to give Shea a lot of credit in this because I don't think he gets enough credit for his defensive capabilities. You're talking about a guy that's got an absolute bazooka behind the plate. One of the fastest pop times there is in Major League Baseball, does a tremendous job game planning and calling the games. And to your point, it is extremely difficult. It's difficult for a veteran catcher to catch that many different pitchers, especially when you're not getting an opportunity to see many of these guys, even in spring training. A lot of these guys, especially in the A's, organization, they're not afraid to bring up guys from high A, AA, AAA, right? And you get an opportunity to see some of those guys at the AA and AAA level during spring training, but it's all those other guys, whether it's a waiver claim in the middle of the season. It's somebody that was brought up that started the season in high A or even low A we've seen at times. It makes it very difficult. The one thing you have to rely on, though, is video. And that's the hard thing to do because it's easy to see it coming at you from the pitcher's perspective, where you're looking at it from the pitcher's back, seeing how the ball moves, as opposed to seeing it coming at you like directly at your face. But utilizing the video as much as possible, just knowing where these guys like to go to get outs, where they like to go to get into counts, if they need a strike in a big situation, what pitch are they going to utilize? And then as you're out there, you can kind of get an adjustment on how the ball likes to move, or certain situations that they're in. Maybe they're a little tighter in this situation. They like to spin it a little bit harder to where I know I need to be able to block the baseball. But give Shea in particular a ton of credit. It's not easy to do, but he seems to find a way to get it done, and he's doing it at a high level.
All right, before we get into Juan Soto or any free agents, you played for the Tampa Bay Rays. We talked about it here because obviously a lot of people are talking about us in Sacramento.
Right.
But it was like, well, for the Rays, I was like, why don't they just play at the Yankees complex? And people are like, the Yankees will never do that. I'm like, you got to remember, this is a business. These guys, these 30 teams are all business partners. And in the end, from what we're hearing, the Yankees and how Steinbrenner lives in Tampa, the Steinbrenner family has deep roots in Tampa. Everybody with the Yankees lives there. I guess the Yankees were really cool about this. They're like, of course, you can come play here. So they're going to play at George Steinbrenner Field there. That you've played in this market.
Yeah.
I've been there, and we're sitting there in Tropicana Field and you're hearing the thunderstorms out there during the summer. Just what do you think it'll be like for the Rays playing in the Yankees spring training complex?
Yeah, we talked about this at length yesterday too. And kudos to the Yankees first and foremost. I know this is a very unenviable situation for the Tampa Bay Rays. It's not a situation that anybody could have predicted either. This was it was a natural disaster and a big one at that. And I don't want to take any light away too from a lot of the folks that are in the Tampa Bay area that still don't have a home to go home to or power or whatever the case may be. But if we're talking about this from a baseball perspective, this is probably the best case scenario for the Tampa Bay Rays as an organization. You're staying within your market, which was something that Major League Baseball was very adamant they wanted Tampa Bay to try to do, knowing full well that it's going to be played outside. There is no other place like the Trop anywhere close to that, unless you were to move down to Miami. But again, Major League Baseball pushed really hard for this to try to stay within that market. Hal Steinbrenner Stadium is 11,000 seats. It's the biggest I believe it's the biggest spring training ballpark in Florida in regards to a capacity standpoint. And the Rays of any team probably are the most well-equipped to have to deal with something like this. I'm talking about as a group, as a front office staff. They have had certain things happen. Let's not forget they lost their spring training facility due to a hurricane 2 years ago, and they've had to make adjustments off of that. So there are a lot of young guys there that are eager to get opportunities at the big league level. The problem I have with it, and again, this is kind of an unsolvable problem if you want to stay within this market, is these poor guys are going to have to play baseball outside in August in Florida, which is going to be 110 to 15 degrees with humidity. And of course, my brain goes to the poor catchers. This is going to be a tough one on those guys. You know what I mean? It's the amount of fluids that are going to be consumed before and after games. It's going to change the way these guys have to prepare for baseball games. Take away the stadium, take away all of the amenities that you have at the Trop. I think this is going to be a very difficult thing. And truthfully, I think it's going to change the way that Tampa Bay goes about their offseason plans too. This is going to be a little bit of a detractor in trying to sign free agents, full well knowing that a lot of guys go to Tampa because of the controlled environment for pitchers. It's a great pitching environment being at the Trop. It's going to be different a little bit this year. You may see some of these guys have 30 homers. Multiple guys in this lineup have 30 home runs. The wind has a tendency to blow. It's hot. It's humid. And I think pitchers are going to be gassed a lot quicker. So you may see balls flying all over the place.
Is this going to be similar to what we used to see with the Marlins when they played at it's now Hard Rock, but it was called Joe Robbie back then? Is it going to be similar to that? Because, of course, the Marlins for years played outside.
Yeah, I have to think it's absolutely right up that alley. You're going to see a lot of batting practices rained out. I mean, it rains at 5 o'clock, like on the dot every day in Florida, no matter where you are. So they're going to have to figure out a way around that. And I think, too, looking at this from the visiting team perspective. So anytime the A's come into town, Players Union has certain qualities, I guess, that they're asking for in regards to where players stay, the type of amenities that are around these hotels. So I think Major League Baseball and the Tampa Bay Rays were kind of in a tough spot. It seemed like staying in Tampa area, maybe even moving up to Orlando, was kind of the best case scenario, because I don't mean this in a negative light. I've been into Port Charlotte multiple times. There's not too many 5-star hotels in Port Charlotte, and I don't think Aaron Judge is going to want to stay in at a Best Western, on Highway 4 off of Port Charlotte for too many days. So they were kind of put in a tough spot, but I think all is well as ends well. And I think Tampa Bay, the Rays organization, are going to make this the coolest experience they possibly can for the opposing teams and the fan base at the same point.
Wait a minute, you're selling the continental breakfast short there at the Best Western. I mean, Aaron Judge, he might wolf down a lot of
Hard-boiled eggs, man. Yeah, there you go.
eggs and bacon and some free coffee. Yeah, no, it's I know they talked about the Disney complex up in Orlando, but yeah, I think
Right.
this is going to be, and the fact that the Yankees have really helped out with this, that it's good that
So kudos to the Yankees organization too. Truthfully,
no question.
yeah.
You know, whenever we start talking about money, fans don't get it. And I hate when I have to go to the business side of it, but this is a business.
Sure.
Shohei Ohtani and his contract makes sense because of the amount of money you make. And we learn this. I don't know if you were hearing me. You could hear.
Yeah, I did. You were spot on with that.
I know a lot about what the Angels were making off of him, and now the Dodgers have even multiplied that. They're making over $100 million off of him. Juan Soto can walk all he wants, and he can be. But what if I'm paying him $600 million and I'm doing it for a long time, and I don't know how well he'll age? I get it, him as a player, and he could be a future Hall of Famer. But if we're talking $600 million, what's the return on investment for this guy?
Yeah, I think honestly that's a great point because Shohei Ohtani is a unicorn in so many different ways, right? He's better than Babe Ruth. Don't at me. He's significantly better than Babe Ruth. He throws harder. We're in a different game to begin with, so we'll just stop it at that. But
you know how I put it? I put it this way. When people will say to me, is he the greatest player of all time? I'm like, you got to play along, with all due respect to the Hank Aaron's and Willie Mays' and all those guys. To me, it's the greatest skill set we have ever seen, no question.
I think that is a fantastic way of putting it, truthfully. He's not there at the point where, is he on a Hall of Fame trajectory? You're darn right he is, in a lot of different ways. And when he does ultimately get in, it's going to be, like, what do you do? Is he a pitcher? Is he a hitter? Is he both? Like, they're going to have to create their own wing in the Hall of Fame for a guy like Shohei Ohtani because he's done things that we've never seen before. And I agree with you. He does, in my opinion, right now at least, have the greatest skill set anybody has ever seen in the game of baseball. We've never seen somebody do what he can do athletically and physically in this game before. And he's not only doing it for the Los Angeles Dodgers on one of the brightest stages in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers are making money hand over fist off of this guy. I heard, and this 100%, I got confirmation on this, the Dodgers actually bought an entire airline that flies straight from Japan to LA to bring fans over to come watch the games. They have an opportunity to go watch Ohtani and now Yamamoto, and it could be Roki Sasaki at the same point.
Oh my God.
Talk about a direct line to heaven right there. My goodness.
He's like 23. I was like seeing highlights of him.
It's ridiculous.
Roki's got
I've
gas.
watched some video on him. It is stupid good. It's 103. It's a really good split. Those two pitches alone will play, I think, for the first 2 years. If you ask me, he's going to have to kind of work on another secondary pitch, but some of these teams that I've seen interested in, I mean, every team should be interested in him. He's pretty much there on a minor league deal for the first few years of his career anyway. You get him with a team that has the ability to really, get somebody like that in a pitching lab and maybe go to work and retooling some of his other off-speed stuff. I mean, we're talking about a guy that could just be absolutely a devastating ace for any rotation.
What I love about these Japanese guys, we saw it with Ohtani, and Roki's going to do the same thing, is they could sit in Japan and wait and then come over for the big money like Yamamoto.
Right.
He wants to come now. I don't care what I'm going to make. I know I'll make big money later on. I want to compete against the best now. There's something to be said about physical ability, and then there's something to be said about a guy that's got that kind of heart and that kind of competitor. Give me that guy any day of the week.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's competitiveness 101. I could make more money, but I'm betting on myself. I know that if I can come over there or over here, I guess, and do what I'm capable of doing, the money part of things will take care of itself, right? I want to go out there and compete against the best. Because as a competitor, that's everything you want. You want to show and prove yourself against the best players out there. And again, that's not to take anything away from the NPB because that's a hell of a league in its own right. And they've got some really good hitters. I just am really excited to see what that plays like in the United States. And I think there are a few major league teams that are thinking the same thing.
Let's end on this. Other than Juan Soto, let's take Soto out of the equation. He's going to sign. He's going to get huge money. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. Other than Juan Soto, before we get to the winter meetings, but other than Juan Soto, what's the number one thing you're thinking about or interested in this offseason?
Oh, man, that is a great question. I think the biggest thing, it's kind of a long, I'll give you two, because number one, I don't think the Yankees should re-sign Juan Soto. And I know that sounds crazy.
Hot take.
I know.
Friday.
And I'll probably eat crow for this, and that's okay. I'm totally fine doing that. I just think that the potential $600-700 million, whatever it's going to take to sign Juan Soto, because it's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
For the way that roster is constructed right now and how we saw them in the playoffs, especially against the Dodgers, they have other needs besides Juan Soto. Yeah, adding a guy like that does a lot for your offense. Don't get me wrong. We saw that this entire season. But I'm interested to see what direction do they go if they don't sign Juan Soto. And if they wait too long, a lot of these really good complementary pieces could already be gobbled up at that point. So they could be stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either you have to give Juan Soto the $700 million he's asking for currently, or you're okay letting him go somewhere else, but not being able to fill those positional needs that you need, because first base is a huge hole right now for the Yankees. I think there are some really good options out there, but to me, you can't sign a Pete Alonso, you can't sign an Anthony Santander until you know if Juan Soto is going to eat up a lot of that budget or not. And if he is, okay, great. You've kind of committed to where you're going to go with that. And now you need to significantly lower your expectations of who else you can acquire to fill in those complementary pieces. But I think they may be better served not signing Juan Soto. And I know that sounds crazy, but trying to fill out their roster with some of these other guys, I'd rather spend, and again, I'm not going to say anything that anybody doesn't deserve any money, and that's not what this conversation is about. I just think if I'm going to spend $600 million, I want like 7 guys or 5 guys, not just one. Even though that one guy's pretty darn good, I think I could really have a better chance of getting back to the World Series and ultimately getting over that hump if I have 5 or 6 other guys for that same amount of money.
And your second one?
Well, my second one is I want to see if the Dodgers kind of we saw them spend $1 billion last offseason. There's another chance. I mean, their name's squarely involved with Juan Soto too. Could they spend another $1 billion? Wow. We know it's out there for the taking. I just don't know. Are they going to sell their souls to the devil and go for as many championships as possible in the next 4 or 5 years? Signing Sasaki, that's an easy one. He's on a minor league deal. I have to feel like they probably are the favorites to do that with San Diego second. But if they were somehow able to land Juan Soto or Corbin Burns and something else, I think we may see the Dodgers potentially as a dynasty here very, very soon.
Yeah, I don't like to bring this up often, but it's a reality that
it really is.
When you start talking about the Dodgers and the money that if they're just going to keep deferring this money, this doesn't sound, I know this sounds awful, but some of the guys from the Guggenheim group, some of their big money people won't be alive.
Exactly.
When these contracts are coming, when you got to start paying some of these older guys, they're like saying, yeah, I'll guarantee it, because they're not going to be alive. Who knows? They'll probably sell the team. People don't want to talk about that, but that's just reality. Let's end on this quickly. I think it's interesting as a player, because you mentioned like the polar bear, right? Like, yeah, why doesn't if you're saying Juan Soto, let's say, goes over to the Mets, why can't the polar bear go over to the Yankees?
Right. It's quite possible.
But what's it like as a player when you maybe not the top guy for your agent? Maybe you're the second level, like Pete Alonso is. What's it like where you have the same agent as Juan Soto, but you got to wait for Soto to get what you want? Your agent's spending so much time on Soto, not enough time on me. I don't give a S-bomb what Soto's getting. I want to get what I like. What is that like as a player?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic question, first and foremost. That's tough, truthfully. It takes a hit to your pride. And I think you have to be a special player first and foremost. And as an agency, you darn sure better be doing everything you can to keep a guy like that as happy and as confident as possible. maybe even talking about when I'm talking with these teams about Juan Soto, I'm bringing your name up as well, right? Because it's a great secondary option. You're not necessarily telling Pete Alonso that part of it, but I think you have to spin this in a way that makes Pete Alonso or other free agents, because we know Scott has a lot of them, feel as important as humanly possible. And I think there was maybe a little soft spot last year in the armor of Scott Boras, and that's Jordan Montgomery. And what happened with that? Same thing could be said about Blake Snell. I mean, he ultimately ended up making $30 million last year, but now here he is, a free agent again, coming off of a significantly worse year, albeit not a bad one, but a significantly worse year than he had the year prior, where he was hoping to get $200+ million and ended up with a 1 year and an option for $30 million. So it's tricky waters to kind of navigate for sure. And the hard part of this is knowing full well that Juan Soto's probably going to sign as late as possible. You know what I mean? It's this thing. I don't think it comes like quickly down the line, because they're going to do everything they can to make sure they get as much money for him as humanly possible.
Are you still in Gilroy?
I'll actually be in Gilroy tomorrow. I'm in Reno, Nevada right now.
Oh, I was just in Reno this past week and betting
Were you
football.
really?
Yeah.
You were playing football. We're going to Santa Clara tomorrow to play football.
I was betting football.
Oh, there you go.
So
I'm playing. Well, I'm not playing. My son's playing Pop Warner in the championship, so we're pretty excited about that.
I played Wolf Run on last Friday.
Great course.
Great course.
Let me know what time you're up. We'll go play.
Yeah. I was just saying, if you were in Gilroy and I was like the Boris people, I'd be sending you to Cordoval. I'd be sending you steaks. I'd be just trying to keep you happy as I'm dealing. Because, I mean, think about it. If Juan Soto takes a long time, Polar Bear's got to sit there. All these guys got to sit there and wait. I mean, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, I would be too, honestly. And I think we may see this come to a head at some point. Truthfully, I mean, granted, I was never as good as any of those names that we're talking about, but I wanted an agency that cared about me as a person. And I'm not saying, obviously, Scott doesn't care about his guys, but when you do find yourself with so many players and such high-profile names, it's really difficult to keep those guys continuously happy. And when you have situations like this where you've got two high-profile names, granted, they don't play the same position, thank God, because could you imagine what that would be like right now for Scott Boras if he represented both Alonso and Juan Soto and they were both first basemen or they're both right fielders expecting a lot of money? It's nice that they don't play the same position, but you sure well know that any team you talk to that is not involved in the Juan Soto trade, he better be bringing up Pete Alonso's name to that team too.
I'll tell you what, your Wolf Pack, UNR, it's amazing how big that school's getting, how it's coming like all the way down.
Every time I go, man, it's like I don't even remember where I'm supposed to go on campus now.
It's unbelievable. As a lot of people know, like the Row, which is El Dorado, Silver Legacy, like it's like coming down to that. It's amazing how big. By the way, you're fabulous. I tell people all the time, Sirius XM channel 89. I don't even go to regular radio anymore. So between the NFL and baseball at 89, 88, but what you guys do is second to none, especially this offseason. So we'll stay in touch. You be well. We always appreciate your time.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for letting me come on here and ramble for 15 or 20 minutes. I appreciate it, you guys.
We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, boys.
Stuff. Yeah, great stuff. Chris Gimenez, former catcher from Gilroy. God, he played for a lot of different teams, but I wanted to get his Rays perspective, no question. Dude, how about, I didn't know. God, I didn't even know about that. The Dodgers have bought a Japanese airline and
well, he's well connected. He used to be a coach with the Dodgers, so he still has connections there.
That's big league.
The Dodgers, they've subtracted from their team this year. Remember, their first base coach is now the new manager of the Marlins.
Who? Never even heard of the guy.
Well, my hot take is officially dead now.
What was your hot take?
Gabe Kapler will be the manager of the Marlins.
Was that a hot take?
I went back and looked at our hot takes. Maybe we'll have to revisit it next week. I went back and looked at all the ones that came true and the ones that didn't, and there's still some, like Johnny saying Rafaela is going to win the MVP in 5 years. We got to wait.
Yeah, that's a hard one. We got to keep track of.
But there's some like you said, Jose Ramirez won the AL MVP. He's probably not, but it's not official yet, so we got to wait.
He's going to get a lot of votes, and he should.
Yeah, he's going to probably finish fourth. But yes,
I mean, it's a hot take. I got a guy in Cleveland versus going up against guys in New York. It's a hot take, right?
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, he could have had quietly the quietest 40-40 season because no one paid attention because everyone's talking about Aaron Judge.
If we went
And
to
Soto.
if we go to Jose Ramirez's numbers, they're MVP numbers. Did his team win the division?
Yes.
Did his team's in the playoffs? I predicted a long time ago Jose Ramirez would win the MVP. Give me his numbers.
Hosey, we're allowed to call him that. Tom Hamilton gave us the distinction. In 158 games, had a 6.8 WAR.
First of all, 158 games out of 162. Yeah. He's a workhorse at third.
6.8 WAR, 279 average, 39 home runs, 118 driven in, 41 steals, and 872 OPS. Oh, and he had 39 doubles.
So
he could have been a 40-40-40 guy.
Remember, hot takes, like saying Aaron Judge is going to win the MVP is not a hot take.
Well, don't tell Johnny that, but
well, taking the favorite is not taking something that you know is going to happen or most likely will happen. That's not a hot take. I thought Jose Ramirez winning the MVP was a hot take, and he backed it. And I did that. I did that early in the season, and he gave me the kind of year that, you know what, I'm proud of the hot take. I may be wrong. I will be wrong. But you know what? He gave me the year I expect. There's an unbelievable. The guy's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yes, I mean, he's already.
And I hate people. He's a future Hall of Famer. Jose Ramirez, at the end, what's his career WAR right now?
52.4.
Yeah, he's going to get in. He's had an. He's a baseball player. He's a professional hitter.
Thank you. He is.
No, I mean, all around, Jose Ramirez stayed in Cleveland, didn't bolt like Lindor, and has been nothing but, I mean, he busts his ass every day. Every single time you watch him, he's not lollygagging. He steals bags. He's not a great body guy, but as a switch hitter, he's one of the best switch hitters we've seen. Jose Ramirez is a terrific, terrific player.
He has 255 career home runs. He'll easily get to 300.
What's he got RBIs?
864. So he'll get to 1,000 RBIs.
Yeah, how old is he?
31.
Yeah,
he just turned 30. He turned 32 during the season.
He's going to have way over 1,000 RBIs, 1,000 runs scored, OPS way over 800. He's going to have Jose Ramirez will have a plaque in the baseball hall.
If he has another 7 WAR season, like he had a 6.8 this year, he'll be already considered almost a Hall of Famer after next season.
He's going to get his career WAR will sniff 80 when it's all said.
Yeah, and he has
that you're in.
He has 1,500 career hits already, so he'll get to 2,000.
I mean, we're putting guys in whose WAR are. I mean, you start talking. What's the bottom shelf? 60?
Yeah, we say 60 is like the lowest.
And there's guys in there below 60. Jose Ramirez is going to fly past 60.
Yeah.
You're putting Scott Rowland in.
Whoa. He's in WAR over 70, I'm pretty sure. I think it was over 70.
You want to put Joe Mauer in?
His WAR was under 50 or under 60.
Well, what's Posey's?
Like 42 something.
You're not going to put Jose Ramirez?
Are we going to put Posey in as a player or as the VP of baseball ops for the Giants?
Well, I'll just say this.
You keep poo-pooing Rowland. He did have a 70.1 WAR.
Give me his offensive numbers.
316 career homers, 2,077 hits, 281 average, 1,287 RBIs, and an 855 OPS.
I mean, it's a great career. But a lot of that 70's in his defense.
And then you're walking right past his plaque.
I'm walking right past it like I don't even see it. Baseball Hall of Fame, you going to go to, I don't know, Babe Ruth's plaque or Scott Rowland's?
I'm going to go to George Herman Ruth.
Are you going to Willie Mays or Scott Rowland's?
It's tough, but I think I'm going to have to go to Willie Mays.
Hank Aaron or Scott Rowland?
Hank Aaron.
Mickey Mantle or Scott Rowland?
Joe DiMaggio.
You going to go to Ted Williams or Todd Helton? I'm just asking. You going to George Brett or are you going to go to Scott Rowland?
Oh, who's better defender?
Michael Jack Schmidt or Scott Rowland?
Yeah. Scott Rowland.
Stop it.
Scott Rowland or Derek Jeter?
I think Jeets was great. You guys hate on Jeets. Oh, he wasn't the best defensive. Man,
it's a fact.
Do you want to go to his postseason numbers? Did the guy not show up when it mattered?
I don't want to hear about postseason stats because the guy that has some of the greatest postseason stats in the history of baseball is not in the Hall of Fame.
Who?
Curt Schilling.
Well, that's politics, my friend.
Yeah, well, I watched the Red Sox documentary the
Speaking
other
of
day.
politics, and to back your guy Posey, because right now, whenever you have somebody who's going in as a president and they're going to fill up their cabinet, everybody criticizes it, right? Well, I always laugh when people will criticize when you go outside the box. Like a lot of people, obviously, with Trump winning, we're in a very liberal area. There's going to be a lot of criticism. Was Steve Kerr Steve Kerr was a crazy pick.
Oh yeah, succeeded the great Mark Jackson,
who was also a crazy pick.
Well,
they're both broadcast. They're out of the broadcast booth.
Do you think Mark Jackson knew the streets were talking about Steve Kerr coming in?
Streets are talking. Good night, Oakland. Good night, San Jose. Good night, San Francisco. That was a great commercial. Okay, John Lynch. He's out of the old broadcast booth. Our Niner fans, you're all right with that?
Yeah, I mean,
correct me if was John Lynch in the front office before he was hired by the 49ers?
I know he was a broadcaster on Fox.
Right. So you're saying, Buster, it's Buster Posey and that same thing?
Yes, former player, yeah. You can say the same thing about the Sharks with Doug Wilson, former player.
Doug Wilson. And the Jeremy Roenick thing was fabulous.
Yes, it was.
Who else? We're just talking Bay Area. We're not talking about, going outside the box and taking somebody. People fall in line what they want the traditional because it makes them feel comfortable. But all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, there's a lot of people who are qualified who maybe don't have a resume, the background in this certain thing, but man, they're going to be fantastic. Steve Kerr is going to go. Basketball, you go in for the entirety of your career. And obviously his career, what he win, 5 titles as a player?
4 with the Bulls and 1 with the Spurs?
I think 3 with the Bulls and 2 with the Spurs.
Either way, he won a lot.
And then, what he did at Arizona, University of Arizona. But Steve Kerr will go into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Steve Kerr, but who would have thought Steve Kerr was going to be such a great coach? You don't know.
Good broadcaster, good GM. He won 2. Yeah, he did win 2 with the Spurs.
Yeah, so he won 3 with the Bulls, 2 with the Spurs. And now 4 with the Warriors. Is 9 titles any good?
It's pretty good. Pretty good accomplishment.
When people say you're going outside the box to hire people, I don't have a problem with Buster Posey.
I want to see what he does.
As long as Buster Posey is the executive who understands to where kind of like this is where Jeter kind of screwed up. Buster Posey, you're the boss. Hire people below you who are good and are smart and allow them to do their jobs, right? And sounds like there's going to be a little more of a philosophy change a little bit, going away from Farhan is purely just all about data. Getting a little more baseball along with the data. But for Buster Posey, you come in and you become you're the guy. You're the CEO. You're the guy running. You're running the ship, right? You got to hire the right people below you and allow those people to do their jobs.
Yeah, and the Giants also made a move that I sent it to you yesterday. They hired Santa Clara great Randy Wynn to be their new vice president player development.
I was just with Randy Wynn in the green room at NBC as he's doing Giants and I'm doing A's. That's another great example. Randy Wynn is a super bright guy. Santa Clara's own. I know him as a Santa Clara basketball player with Steve Nash. You know him as a baseball player. I go back with Randy as a basketball player. But no, that's another great example of you know what? I'm going to hire somebody who's really bright, knows the game. I'm going to bring something new. And Randy Wynn, I can tell you, I've spent a lot of time with him at NBC. Randy Wynn's a bright guy. You're bringing in a bright guy. So that's another one. Does he have any front office experience?
I don't know the answer to that because I don't know what his role is if he worked for the Giants before, but I'm going to go with probably not a lot.
Yeah, so you're bringing in guys that are very bright baseball people, and you're going to give them an opportunity. I have no problem. You just went the traditional route. You just took the guy who is Billy Beane's guy. I mean, obviously David Force, but other than David Force, Farhan is very close to Billy Beane. Very, very close. Got the Dodger gig. Then he gets the Giants gig. He's off the Moneyball train, right? You took the Moneyball guy. How did it work for it? It was a disaster. Giants won 107 games, and man, they had all the pinch hit home runs. They did all the platooning. Everything worked. Other than that, the Farhan Giants experience was a disaster.
I think they were 500 or under every year.
And what do we know in life? When you hire somebody and you fire somebody, you're going to go hire the exact opposite of what you just fired. Right?
Yeah.
You're never going to fire a guy and then hire somebody who's just like him. The only time we do that in life is actually in politics. You'll recall a politician or a DA or whatever, and then you'll put somebody just like him in charge. But in sports, if you fire Harbaugh, you're not going to get someone. You get Jim Tom Sula.
Oh.
So Jim,
we're gonna run. We're gonna throw a little bit. I really think the great Jim Cosmore. You think you're really tipping your hand there, Jim?
Oh God, poor Cos. God, I gotta call Cos. But that is the reality. When you fire somebody, you hire the opposite, and then what happens is when you fire that guy, you end up going back to that. But when you fire someone like Farhan, you're going to go the opposite, and the opposite is going to be Buster Posey. And Buster's going to bring, and you know what? You're going to bring people in who you're comfortable with. You're going to be, it's like, look at the transition in our organization. David Force has been the right-hand man to Billy Beane for all these years. And as Billy starts to transition into a different part of his life, still around, but he's got a lot of other things that he wants to do in his life. He made sure that when people called and they wanted to get David Force to leave our organization, Beane said, no, we're keeping him. And then David has transitioned into being the leader of the franchise, right? So that's kind of like the old school way to do it as you start to step down. Well, it's hard to do that because usually people get hired and fired. The fact that Billy was here for so long and allowed David to eventually take over. That's just a natural progression. Not a lot of people get that kind of longevity. But usually when you're firing people, you're not going to hire somebody who's just like the person you fired. And Buster Posey, from what I understand, I got to interview Buster as a player. I haven't dealt with him in years. I'm sure we'll have a chance to maybe interview Buster at the winter meetings, but his philosophy, and he's going to be completely different than Farhan. That's just natural. I have no problem with it. Let's see. What do you have to, you just went all in on the analytical world. You just went all in on the guy who's supposedly so smart and Farhan, and it failed. Bringing in Posey, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm just curious because a lot of Giants fans on social media and saying that, well, he's going to sign the big free agents. Well, they came out that, hey, they're going to have a meeting with Juan Soto. Then all of a sudden, they're not having a meeting with Juan Soto.
Didn't NBC Bay Area say they're going to cut payroll?
Yes. And I was talking to a few of my friends that are Giants fans. There's several, and they're like, well, that's because they're going to get rid of Yaz and Lamont Wade. I'm like, they make like $7 million and $3 million. Like, I know they're going to go up on arbitration, but that's their slashing a payroll. Oh, Snell's going to be off the books.
Well,
unless you bring him back.
There is a lot of belief that we're going to have an offseason very similar to last offseason, to where the big money's not going to be flowing. And yours truly sits here and goes, that's what I do, because I think the majority of these guys aren't worth it. I heard AJ Przinsky. I saw it on X, Foul Territory. Great show. But when you listen to ex-players, they feel so entitled to make all this money, even though they're not worth it. So baseball, just think of it like a pie graph and how much money's made, and the owners are making that. They feel they're owed. And it's like, we've already proven that as you get older and you get into your 30s, you're less of a player. So why would I pay you to be less of a player? And the system, the way it's set up, is I don't pay you for the first 6 years, and those are really your best years. And you may have a few good ones after that, but the majority of you guys don't age. We don't have steroids anymore. You know, steroids allowed guys to be hitting bombs and having career years at 35. You just don't see that anymore. And the reality is that, you know, a lot of these, the money is so huge in professional sports now, but that's where I always go back to football. In football, we understand as football fans, I'm a Raider guy, you're a Steelers guy, a lot of you out there, Niners guys. You understand, I don't want old, expensive football players on my team.
That's why the Steelers got Russell Wilson
you don't want
on the cheap.
Does anybody want to ink up? You know, we when people go, oh my God, you know, get a blank check for Juan Soto. Does anybody in football get a blank check where I can't? You know, I'm gonna be Albert Pujols and guarantee you money till you're 42 years old. That doesn't happen in football. Why? Because it's stupid. It's bad business. I get it. Players want to make a lot of money and they want to set up generation. But I mean, the majority set up generations of their families, what I was trying to get out there. But the reality is you're not worth it. You're not worth it. All these players we're giving a ton of money to, majority of them are not worth it. Our value as a sport is as a content provider. These players, how many of these players, when you say he's making $20 million a year, how many people actually pay money to watch that guy play? How many guys made 20-something million this year, and they weren't in the postseason?
Most of the guys you mentioned, the highest paid pitchers, except for Gerrit Cole.
6 highest paid pitchers this year were worth nothing. And they're making generational wealth, and they're worth nothing. To me, I have no, if our business is like, you know what, you've got to right the wrong. And if they want to go through a labor war, fine. But I mean, you can prove how many of these people. Aletmus Diaz made $8 million last year. Does anybody really think Aletmus Diaz was worth $8 million? Keep it in our neighborhood. You think Aletmus Diaz can walk down the street, no one has a clue who he is? You want to go to his numbers for $8 million? How many people? $8 million for Aletmus Diaz. Crazy.
There's another guy.
Just way crazy.
Alex Wood, 8.5.
Alex Wood made 8. That's $16 million.
Strip made 9.
Is that case in point of how many players? If we're going to talk about our own guys, Diaz, Wood, Stripling, it's everywhere in the sport. You have all these guys in our sport making millions of dollars, and they're not worth it. They're not worth it. There's no proof that there's worth it. Their numbers prove it. From the entertainment side of the business, it proves it. Like so we sit here, whether it's on Twitter or it's on these shows, and everybody wants to give everybody all this money. It's like, why? I think it's important to be flexible. So Texas is not going to spend as much money, but that may be smart. It's smart we know this. Getting old and expensive is not smart. If we're just talking about the competitive, if you want to be competitive as a team, getting old and having a bunch of guaranteed contracts is not a smart deal. And by the way, I thought Gimenez was interesting, his reaction when I asked that question. Think if you're somebody who is going to have to wait for Juan Soto to sign, and you have the same agent. And you just got to sit there.
A lot of these guys have Boris.
Weeks after weeks after weeks. I mean, look what it did to Matt Chapman.
Isn't Bregman's a Boris guy too, right?
Don't know. I don't know.
Because he's one of the big guys. Also.
Now, that should be a different market. I mean, certain guys are different markets. But what?
Yeah, Scott Boras, yeah, he's his agent.
He's a different market because he's a third baseman, right? And the age is different. But where the polar bear...
Aren't him and Polar Bear the same age?
They're
both 30.
Problem with the polar bear is if he wants to stay in New York, Yankees or Mets could be battling it out for Soto.
Yeah, I think a good consolation for the Yankees if they miss out on him, maybe Alonso. Christian Walker would be a good fit in New York.
He was great for me this past year.
He's been great the last few years for Diamondbacks.
Bringing it back to my fantasy team.
He's the only thing with him is he's 34.
What about Santander?
I like him too.
I mean, would you rather take the money? What do you think you get Santander for? Just give me a figure. Just, I mean, I'm not, you don't have to be right on this. Just give me an idea.
20.
For how many?
4. 4 for 80.
Okay. If I spend $80 million on Santander versus $600 million on Soto, how many more players, as Chris Gimenez just said, on how many players I can go buy? Because I got to replace Rizzo at first. Am I really going to go Jazz Chisholm at third base the entire year? If we're talking Yankee, if you're going to get your Yankee hat, we need to buy you a Yankee hat, you closet Yankee fan. So when the Yankees come up, you can put it on.
I can borrow one from our former PA, Michael. I'm sure he has 1,000.
So, right, I mean, if you're just thinking, right, like all the different positions you're going to have to fill, $600 million is a lot of money to spend on one dude when Santander had an unbelievable year. One of the greatest years a switch hitters ever had.
You could get him. You could probably get Christian Walker, who he's hit 30 home runs 2 of the last 3 years. He hit 26 this year, and he only played 130 games. I know
he was
34,
a monster 2 years ago.
33 and 103
Yeah.
home run to RBI, hit 258. I mean, even at age 28, when he played 152 games, he had 29 home runs.
What are you going to get out of the Martian?
He's coming off Tommy John last year, so you hope that he is fully healthy coming into this next year. I don't know. Is he the guy that replaces Soto if he doesn't stay?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you had Santander, Dominguez, and then Judge, and then Walker, I'm already a better team.
Yeah, and then you
right.
Obviously, you're going to.
Yeah,
you're not going to bring back Gleyber Day, and you're not going to bring back Verdugo.
Gleyber Torres. Speaking of Walker, Gleyber Torres stunk.
I don't know. I read that he might have helped his value with how he played in October. So we'll see.
What if so Gimenez from SiriusXM said the Yankees, his top 2 things, the Yankees shouldn't sign
Soto. Yeah.
Soto. Okay. I think him signing with the Mets. Now, I'll make some predictions on that all of a sudden that shine. Go ahead. Uncle Steve, sign Soto to a record number contract and watch the numbers plummet. Because all of a sudden, when you're not hitting in front of Judge and you have to be the guy, his number, he'll have a lot of walks. He'll have a lot, You're
really saying Jeff McNeil won't drive him in?
That's the one thing that there was the knock that people in San Diego when Soto was there was like big situations, man, he walked a lot, which is great. And the Mike Petriellos of the world love that. But as a baseball fan, you're like, I want to see you swing it and do some damage. If you're the $600 million walking man in New York with the Mets, because they signed him to that kind of deal, they're going to want him to swing it.
Well, yeah, the only guy they really.
But his on base percentage and he walks more. Oh my God, you're going to be like, for example, in the World Series, Aaron Judge is not hitting, and you're walking a lot. What are you doing for me? How is that strategy? I got the big boy can't hit, and you're taking all these pitches, and you end up with 1 home run and 1 RBI in the World Series. I don't know. I maybe need you to swing it a little more. Just saying. But what about his second? The Dodgers could spend another $1 billion and put it. At some point, does baseball start to worry like, oh my God, we're accumulating, because that's called debt. You're accumulating. I'm spending money that I don't have right now. How much does baseball allow the Dodgers to keep doing that?
Well, the Dodgers are clearly exposing a loophole in baseball that baseball's going to have to address in the next CBA because they're deferring money. I mean, I know other teams have done it, like the Nats are paying Strasburg.
Everybody defers money, but that is I'm going to pay you and give you this money later. I get it. They're deferring everything with Ohtani.
Yeah. So what?
Now Yamamoto's not.
No,
They're
he's
paying
323 or whatever
Yamamoto,
it was. So obviously, like Roki Sasaki only makes, he's only going to make like a minor league free agent would make for the first couple of years, which is great for whatever team tries to get him. But then they could sign Soto and put him in the outfield because they said that Mookie's going to play back in the infield this year. So Mookie's back in the infield, and your outfield could be him and I don't think Kike Hernandez has been playing center field next year for them, but they always find guys to fill in their outfield, and then you can sign Corbin Burns, who the Orioles should resign, and MLB Network just put this out. if they don't resign Corbin Burns, here's the Orioles rotation going into next year. How many games will this rotation win? Zach Eflin, Grayson Rodriguez.
Okay, yeah, I'll take it.
Dean Kramer.
Yeah.
Albert Suarez. Trevor Rogers. And then obviously Bradish and Tyler Wells they had Tommy John this year. This is the Orioles, a team that has a lot of young position players they're going to have to pay soon.
Yeah, you're in a win now mode, man. How do you not bring back Corbin Burns? You're in a win now mode. And he's going to give you the innings. Yeah. You need innings. Yeah. You're in win now.
You got a new owner, too, that seems a little willing to spend.
Has talked a big game.
So, let's see.
By the way, how did our Arizona Fall League, you looked up the stats.
Oh, yeah. Let me go to it.
Did you see Nick Kurtz has a couple triples?
Yeah, Nick Kurtz.
A couple triples.
Kurtz hit in...
I'm trying to not get too excited.
In 13 games, Kurtz hit 2 home runs, drove in 11, 3 doubles, 2 triples, hit 353, and had a 1,058 OPS.
He's 6'5". He's a monster. And he had 2 triples.
Denzel Clark, in 19 games, 2 homers, 13 driven in, 3 triples, 9 steals, and hit 382.
There are people, including his agent, the great Mark O'Brien, who I played with at San Jose State. I played ball with Denzel Clark's agent. And there's a lot of people that say he's the Canadian is the best athlete you've ever seen. They say this guy, I've never seen him play. I've just seen him walk. He supposedly is the best freaking athlete. Like, this guy's athletic ability, Denzel Clark's athletic ability is off the charts.
Didn't Bobby Crosby say he's the best athlete he ever saw too? I think Bobby Crosby told us that.
Everybody has said it, so I wouldn't doubt it if he told us that. Henry Bolte struggled.
Yeah,
it's all right. He's young.
I can pull it up. I have the Mesa Solar Sox right here. We got all qualified players, or just all players. Henry Bolte in 9 games hit 222, 1 homer, drove in 3.
It's 9 games. Kurtz is a good sign. Having him play. I tell you what, there's a lot of good. I can't wait for spring training, because you're going to show up and it's going to be like, well, this is what we kind of think, but this thing could change really quick. That's why it's kind of like, Tyler Soderstrom, what are you doing with him this offseason? How many gloves do you have him working on? Right?
Yeah.
I told you I'm taking that catcher's gear, and maybe you got to have him still catch. No. I mean, where else can he play? Because before you know it, Nick Kurtz could be here. This kid is coming out of a program that's very sophisticated. And he's come right out and hit. Then bad hammy, goes down to the Arizona Fall League, continues to hit. He's a 6'5", mashing, super athletic first baseman. And he immediately showed up to Stockton, and it's like, he's better than all these guys. That's the thing. That's the deal. Right when you know you got something special, is when somebody shows up and he's just clearly better than everybody else. And it just shows. Like, I can't even imagine what it was like when Ken Griffey showed up and he's 18 years old and you're like, this guy's just better than everybody else. He's just Alex Rodriguez. And these guys are coming out. They're man-child, right? They come out and they're like, this dude's just better than everybody else. What are you going to do? Like, how long are you going to have this guy be head and shoulders over everybody? A-ball, double-A. It's like, dude, he shouldn't be here, right? Like Tiger Woods coming out of Stanford shows up and just wins. Why? Because he's better than everybody else.
He was a winner early in his career.
Like, why are you going to have Tiger Woods sitting at Stanford? There's no point. He's better than everybody. Like, when somebody is just that obvious, and Kurtz could be one of those guys to where he shows up to Double-A next year, and immediately it's like, this is not really that great a competition for him. Then what are you going to do? Send him to Vegas to the Homer Dome? Of course he's going to hit that. I mean, I'm just saying Nick Kurtz may not be long before we see him in Sacramento.
Well, Jacob Wilson wasn't long in the minor leagues, so.
Yeah, it's like he's hitting 450. What are you going to just have him sit there and hit 450? It's ridiculous.
I did hear someone say, and I won't say their name.
Say their name.
Jacob Wilson, to them, just projects as a utility guy. It's not very high on him like everyone else is.
Who said it?
He may or may not work at SiriusXM and comes on this program.
Oh, and he lives in the Valley of the Sun.
Yeah, so he's watched him play a good bit.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's an opinion. It's an opinion.
He was the same guy that said that the White A's would be worse than the White Sox this year. How'd that work out?
He thinks Jacob Wilson will just be no better than a utility guy.
Thinks he'll end up being like a utility guy, yeah.
Wow.
He's not as high on him as everyone else is.
He
He watches a lot of college baseball, so I mean, he has an eye. He has the eye, the scout's eye.
He hit 450 in pro ball. He's hitting 500. I mean, what? That's not college.
It's true. That's true. Not him being.
I mean, he went to wood bat pro ball and just was better than everybody else.
That's why he got called up so fast.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, he's not Wyatt Langford.
So I don't care what you saw in college. Yeah, he ripped in college, but then he went and did it in pro ball.
You know, in college, Logan Davidson.
Who you're still?
We'll see. He'll be in the Rule 5 draft, I think. So,
anything we want to get into that we talked about that I've forgotten that we need to get into? I do give kudos. Speaking of you Yankee hacks, I do give kudos to the Yankees for making this a real easy thing for the Rays.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'll say this on this show. I've said it in text in our little text threads. There was probably going to be, at least early, a lot of let's look at the A's in Sacramento. But I guarantee you, Rays in Tampa is going to take us off the map. Because the Northeast, who really does the majority of the coverage for our sport, they're now affected. Yankees got to play there. Red Sox got to play there. Orioles got to play there. Blue Jays got to play there. And don't think the Blue Jays aren't going to offer a lot of money to Juan Soto. They could be a player too. But the whole baseball universe out west, we're kind of out in our own little deal here. Unless you're the Dodgers, we're kind of in our own little world. The Rays playing at George Steinbrenner Field there. I believe it's called George Steinbrenner Field. It's George Steinbrenner something complex.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called.
I think I have the exact term.
Steinbrenner
Hold on,
Field?
I have it here somewhere. Hold on. It is Steinbrenner Field.
Steinbrenner Field. Looks beautiful. I've watched spring training games, MLB Network. It's a big ball. It looks like it's built like a AAA ballpark. So
yeah, Gimenez says it seats like 11,000.
Yeah, how about the people go, yeah, they're going to be playing at AAA. That's not a AAA park. That's a spring training facility. Just like Dunedin, where the Blue Jays played. When baseball people, they don't cover other sports, they kind of get out over their skis. Like there's some people who, I can't believe this is happening. You're like, well, you do realize that the Minnesota Vikings played at the University of Minnesota in a small college stadium.
Correct. I'll give you one that we haven't talked about. That
I can give you one that I worked at, and that would be the soccer stadium in Carson. The Chargers, the NFL, the Chargers played in a soccer stadium that's 25,000 people. So when baseball people act like you cannot, how can you not? The NFL, which is the NFL is not the biggest in sports. It's the biggest part of the entertainment business in our entire country. Nothing is bigger in our country than the NFL. And they've made adjustments for teams to build new parks. I give you proof. Chargers at a soccer stadium in Carson. Vikings played at the University of Minnesota. So you're getting out of your skis, baseball people. You don't follow all of sports. Slow down.
The Arizona Coyotes, before they went to Utah, played at Arizona State, a 5,000 seat. I think it was Mullet Arena, 5,000 seat stadium. A National Hockey League. I know hockey is not basketball, baseball, and football in this country, but a professional sports team played at Arizona State for a season. Or actually, it might have been 2 seasons.
The Blue Jays played in Buffalo at their AAA. Yeah. The Blue
Jays
played at Dunedin at their spring train. Like, settle down. Right now, Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers just got the win on Sunday against the Titans. Sorry, Dallaire. No one's even talking. Does anybody talking? And the Chargers are selling out SoFi. Is anybody talking about the soccer stadium anymore?
No. Also, they're Sunday Night Football this week too.
Nobody talks. Like after that stuff's done, no one talks about it anymore. Like there was talk about the Raiders playing at Cal, and that could have happened, but they decided to stay at the Coliseum. But the Raiders could have played at Cal before Allegiant Stadium was done. So it's like, dude, settle down. Settle down. You guys don't understand. 5 years from now, we won't even talk about it.
Correct.
6 years from now, we won't even talk about it. When's the last time you heard someone talk about the Vikings playing out because they went from the Metrodome to the University of Minnesota? When's the last time someone talked about the Vikings playing at the University of Minnesota outside?
Couldn't tell you.
Couldn't tell you. No one referenced it. All they do is skull, and that's all they care about now.
I do love that they play Prince every time they score a touchdown. I do think that's a nice touch.
It's a phenomenal. I've worked that stadium. It's basically they went down to Jerry's World, and they took the best of what Jerry and they just made it better. The Minnesota Vikings Stadium.
Oh, so you're saying
awesome?
So you're saying that their receivers can see the ball in the end zone?
Oh wow! Shots fired. By the way, I'm going to. You guys didn't respond to the text thread, but when we're in Nashville at the winter meetings, Dallas, I am going to Cowboys Bengals. My buddy's a season ticket holder, and he's going to meet me there, and I'm going.
Joe Burrow versus Cooper Rush. Well, actually,
Trey Lance.
Trey Lance and Joe Burrow.
Trey Lance. Niner great, Trey Lance. Montana, Young, Y.A. Tittle, John Brody,
Garcia.
Steve DeBerg.
Garcia.
Jeff Garcia.
Elvis Gerback.
Trey Lance.
Wow. Shots fired at
Steve Bono. Trey Lance.
Jim Drunkenmiller.
I'm going to go to that Cowboy game. I don't know what you're doing.
I did mention to our boss.
You guys all didn't respond, so I found other means.
We talked about it in the office, and no one seemed interested in going.
All right, so don't be hating on me when all of a sudden, like, hey, I'm heading to Arlington to watch Monday Night Football, and you're, well, what about us? I threw it out there.
There is something coming locally for us. Monday Night Raw is going to be here in early January. That's
early January.
That's Raw on Netflix, by the way, not on cable.
Early January.
January 13th. It's Monday. Tickets are kind of.
Do I have to go Rick Barry?
It's going to be sold out. You're going to miss out.
Oh, I clearly am not. I am not spending money to go to Monday Night Raw. Now, you want to get me in? I'll go.
I'll ask our good friend Alan. Maybe he has a hookup like he did for the last show him and I went to.
If you get me in, I'll go. Am I paying to see taped wrestling?
No, it's live. It's on Netflix now.
Oh, it's on that. So they're just not taping it and re-showing it for the next week?
No, it's going to be on. This is the whole Netflix.
Who's
experience.
wrestling? You don't even know in January.
No, great question. We don't know. But Netflix wants all the big stars, so we'll see what WWE does.
Is it Tyson?
That's
Paul
tonight.
Day?
That's tonight. Yeah, no, I don't care.
I do not care. Tyson's got to get him early, and then if he doesn't, he's 58 years old.
Correct. The only thing we didn't talk about, the only A's news that wasn't positive is, your guy Nick Allen.
Why is that not positive?
Well, it's positive for him, but I'm saying it ended. Nick Allen now an Atlanta Brave.
Nick Allen is a phenomenal kid, and there gets to be a time where you need to move on. And clearly, Atlanta's interested in him. The A's are moving in a different direction. Jacob Wilson is the future at shortstop. So for Nick Allen, it's good for him to go somewhere else, right? It's good to go somewhere else.
And
if your time has come with an organization, it's good that you move on and go somewhere else.
A's acquired Jared Johnson, who spent the season at High A Rome from the Braves. He was 7-4 with 8 saves and a 2.60 ERA in 38 games.
Just keep stacking pitching.
Well, that's why
you're going to need all of it.
Well, we'll get into this next week. We're going to be on next Friday after all the awards ceremonies. So we'll know who all the MVPs, the Rookies of the Year, Cy Young, all that stuff, Manager of the Year.
Yeah, we did today's show, obviously, because of Brent. We wanted to get Brent Rooker on and be able to put it on YouTube and X for everybody to see. And then, of course, for you to listen to on A's Cast. And also, we didn't know, but it was pretty cool that Mason Miller got second team all MLB. So that's why we did today's show. Next week, Monday, we got Rookie of the Year. Then it's Manager on Tuesday. Wednesday, Cy, and Thursday is MVP. So we're going to have to make an executive decision when we're back on Friday to review that.
Yeah, so we'll do that then. But there is something. Martin Gallegos wrote down a list of 8 starting pitchers that they should look at. So I made my own list that's different than his. And it's not, nope, sorry, Corbin Burns is not on that list, unfortunately. So we can get that. There's obviously there'll be more news that comes up by next week. The awards recap. So looking forward to that.
So for Soto, because we got to cover it, it's the number one thing in our sport. There's face-to-face meetings right now. Today was the Red Sox. Soto's agent, Scott Boras, began meeting with interesting teams this week with the Toronto Blue Jays and Boston Red Sox, reportedly among the first to get face-to-face time. So the Blue Jays, I guess the Blue Jays already met with them.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because they were one of the first teams that said they were going to.
Mets and Yankees both have meetings scheduled as well. The 2 New York teams are expected to pursue Soto most aggressively. Thursday night, Red Sox met with Soto and Boras for approximately 3 hours. All right, details of the meeting. Soto was said to be impressed by the Red Sox presentation, including the video, taking note of the franchise history of star players from the Dominican Republic, Soto's native country. The Red Sox laid out their plans for the future and highlighted the crop of soon-to-be arriving top prospects. I got a picture of that MLB Network. They got like 5 guys that they're pretty high on. In turn, Soto wanted to know about the team's commitment to winning, player evaluation methods, Fenway Park and its facilities. Now, you got to remember the Red Sox have been going like they're trending down in payroll.
Yes.
So they've got some explaining to do. They were ranked 12th in baseball last year. Let's see. They've been the postseason once in the last, this Red Sox, postseason once in the last 6 years, having only 2 winning seasons. They finished 2024 with $223.1 million payroll for the competitive balance tax purposes, ranked 12th in baseball.
Well, I'm sure by the next time we're on, there's going to be even more Soto news. There's going to be news, but nothing happened.
There won't be a signing. There may be news. All righty. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on X, or it's on listening on A's Cast. Hope you enjoyed Brent Rooker. We're going to put Brent Rooker back up on YouTube in case people missed it today, correct?
Yes. I'll have that up later today. The show will be on there as well. The show will be on as soon as we end.
Okay.
So we can go back and watch. It's on X as well. If you follow at AthleticsCast24.
Brent Rooker is at the very start. Chris Gimenez was fantastic. Host on Sirius XM, former player, local product, grew up an A's fan in Gilroy, played for the Indians, Mariners, Rays, Rangers, Twins, and Cubs.
He was a coach for the Dodgers, so he's been all around.
Yes, there's no doubt about it. All righty, everybody, enjoy the weekend, and we'll put it out on social when we're going to be back. What do you think? Thursday, probably Friday?
Friday, yeah.
Friday morning? Do another Friday morning?
Why not?
All right. We'll be back next Friday morning. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy all the awards. Have fun with it. And good luck to all your football teams. Good luck to San Jose State against Boise tomorrow. Big game for Sparty as we took care of Oregon State up in Oregon.
I heard the big news. You're going to be there.
I am going to be there. You're damn right I'm going to be there.
You're like a rare bear, college football fan. You only show up when the big teams are in town.
Oh, wow.
The shots fired at Cal fans. Sorry.
Oh, wow. Where's E40?
I didn't see you guys at UC Davis when I was at that game earlier this year. So, but you're there for Miami. Good.
Wait a minute. Yeah, I had to go to Cal UC Davis.
Yeah, I was at Cal UC Davis too, but a lot of Cal fans weren't, but they were there for Miami.
I will be at Cal Syracuse and then be at San Jose State, Boise State.
What an ACC showdown on a Saturday. Cal Syracuse.
I got a double dip tomorrow. I'm going to be driving all around the Bay Area tomorrow.
Cal could become the second California team to become bowl eligible behind San Jose State.
San Jose State right now, if the season ended, is the only bowl eligible team.
Yeah, everyone else stinks in California right now.
Yeah, it is what it is. Oh, God, SC and UCLA, pathetic.
Stanford?
Stinks.
Stanford, not great. Not great at all.
Yeah. Hey, enjoy the ACC in basketball.
God.
Ooh, now you're in a big boy conference in hoop. ACC is legit in hoop. Welcome, Duke, North Carolina. Oh, boy. Wake Forest. It's going to be interesting. All right, everybody. We'll see you next Friday. Thank you for watching A's Cast Live.
A's general manager David Forst was on A's Cast Live and discussed building the A's roster heading into a new ballpark in West Sacramento.
What we do know about Sutter Health is that as it relates to the PCL, it's a pretty average ballpark. I mean, it's not Albuquerque, it's not Las Vegas. Colorado Springs isn't in the PCL anymore, but it's not Colorado Springs. So it has always played as a slight hitter's ballpark, but nothing compared to the rest of the PCL. Now, once we put major league players in there and the major league environment, we'll see. Right now, we're going to build a team that we think is the best in any environment. We knew the Coliseum well. We knew the kind of things that played here. It'll take us a little while at Sutter Health, but I think we should expect it to be pretty neutral until it proves otherwise.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/A'sCast. This has been a presentation of The Athletics.